We did it.
We did it. Hey, everyone.
We're still having problems with the live video. We can't figure out what we're doing wrong.
But we got it.
My name is Anna. I'm a wife of an addict in recovery.
My name's Mitchell. I am an addict in recovery.
We did have a few questions, and we're just going to let that out there know. We are based out of Massachusetts now. We were before.
In Pennsylvania. I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. I lived in North Carolina for a little bit, and I went to treatment in Utah.
Yeah, so now we're based out of here in Massachusetts. So we said we would go live right around this time and finish answering the questions that some people gave us. So, first question. Can you discuss how to approach an addict and what to say to an addict to get them help or understand that they have a problem that is affecting others around them?
Go. You go first.
Go? Okay. So what I would definitely say is I think it's absolutely okay to go to the person that you believe is suffering from addiction and discussing to them what's going on in your life and how this addiction is hurting you. But just be aware, some people are not ready to admit that they're an addict, so they possibly may deny. And the hard part about it is you can express to them and, let them know that maybe we should seek help. But until they are ready to seek help, the only best advice I can give you is you have to keep focusing and working on yourself. Because when you place boundaries up, it's basically detaching with love also. And that allows them to actually see also what they will lose if the addiction keeps going.
Yeah, I think, like we kind of said yesterday too, if they don't realize they have a problem, it's a little trickier because they're probably not going to get any help, or I don't know, until they know they have a problem. So maybe, you can bring to light some of the stuff that you used to do, or I don't know if that person stopped doing some things and you just want that old person back or what, but I'd probably bring up how things have changed a little bit. That might make them realize they have a problem. And just bring to light, maybe what or how it's affecting the others around them.
And also make sure that you don't do it alone. So for the families and friends out there, if you do believe that your loved one is suffering from addiction, don't do it alone. Have support around you, because the best chances for anybody to get help and seek help is knowing that they have a support system around them. And hi, Chris. We love you.
Chris? Love you too, man. Yes, you did.
Next question. Should I keep his addiction a secret, especially from my family?
There's a bunch of different, in my opinion, you have to look at employment and, if they're running a business, who's going to put it out there that, this person might be an addict or whatever. Usually the family will know, or your family might know. If everybody's totally oblivious, I would go ahead and, voice your concerns to the actual person first and then go from there.
I'm actually going to go completely opposite from him. I don't think you should keep his addiction a secret at all, because that was part of why I actually felt so alone. Is a lot of people didn't come up to me that knew that Mitchell was getting a bunch of coke or drinking behind my back, and so that was one of the things. Is I think people tried to keep hush-hush for so long because they didn't believe it was their point to say something. But that's a huge reason of why I felt so alone, was because other people after the fact, when Mitchell was in recovery, would say, oh, I knew this about Mitchell, and it was kind of like, if I had all the knowledge, maybe something would have been a little bit different. So I don't think you should keep the addiction secret, especially from your family. No, because you need support. Because that's one of the things I think that happens is with addiction is we try to keep it hush hush, and when we do that, we isolate ourselves and we create that own isolation. There were times that I felt like I shouldn't be talking to my parents about it because the addict would confront me and tell me that, you know, this was only between you and I, nobody else. But then I started feeling what I was doing was wrong. But to this day now, I know it was not wrong. I needed my family. I needed the support around me. Just like the addict needs an army behind them, so do we.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Not to keep it a secret, to make sure that they know they have a problem, that they actually have a problem, and then tell whoever. Mm-hmm. That's what I was kind of getting at.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever feel a little ashamed of what people would say and think about your situation?
No. Let's think. I mean, I was ashamed that I couldn't quit, but it was 20-some years that I knew I had a problem with drugs and alcohol because I couldn't stop when other people could. So it was a fact. So I don't think it was more of just shame that I knew, and then once I would say it, that everybody would know, and it kind of set it in stone. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think it's, you know, so I guess in the beginning it might have, you know, I might have been a little bit scared or ashamed what people would say, but I quickly found out that it's a strength. You know, if people find out and they know and you're not doing anything about it, people just avoid you, and I think it's a weakness. But once you get help and you're working on yourself, it's one of the biggest strengths that I've ever had in my life now, and I am, you know, I never thought I'd say it either, and I've heard a lot of other people say it once they get recovery, that they're grateful for their addiction. And I am one of those people now. I'm very blessed and grateful for my addiction and the chance to overcome it and work on myself every day. I mean, I never would have continually worked on myself in all aspects of my life unless it was for this trauma and addiction that I've had.
Do you want to share with them the story about the police officer that stopped you? You know how being, you know, you were talking about in the past you felt ashamed, but now it's like when he's asked about it, and even if he's not asked about it, he will state it, and I was just wondering if you wanted to share that experience.
When I was in Utah, I was going a little over the speed limit, and I got pulled over. I was probably around 3 or 4 months clean, probably 3 months clean. It was one of the first times getting pulled over by a cop that I wasn't nervous, which was, you know, exciting. So the cop came up to the car, and I told him that this is the first time. Well, I told him that I was in recovery, and I was like about 3 months clean, and he put his hand in and gave me a fist bump and was like, I'm very proud of you. Keep up the great work. And then he went back and did his thing and came back up to the window, and I was like, this is funny because I was just telling my wife that, you know, this is the first time I got pulled over by a cop and wasn't nervous. And he's like, that's because you didn't have drugs in the car. You know, and we smiled and kind of laughed. And, you know, he just said, keep up the great work. And he said, I'm going to give you a warning. And he was like, you know, this would have been a $200 ticket. Take your wife out to dinner. You don't need to be spending this on a ticket, you know. And then after we pulled away, my wife looked down at the ticket and was like, you need to look at this. And then in the comments he wrote, great work on the recovery and keep it up. So it was pretty awesome, and it really validated that I was doing the right thing. For one, I wasn't nervous. 2, I was open about it. And 3, I got some validation from an authority figure saying I'm doing a great job.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because it's awesome. You don't know how many people really are affected with addiction until you actually express yourself about it, and it just seems like every single time we express ourselves about it, whether it's in public or private conversation, somebody else will state, a friend, a family member, you know, is suffering from addiction as well. And so it's more prevalent than we believe, and I think it's because a lot of people are scared to talk about it. So if you become open with it, you'll be very surprised at how many people it affects.
Yeah, because I think it touches a lot of people's lives. They know everybody knows someone who's affected by it, and people, you'll be amazed how many people really want to open up about it and are proud of you for admitting you have a problem and working on it.
So the next one. Oh wait, so did you ever feel a little ashamed of what people would say and think about your situation? And I'm going just exactly with Mitchell. In the beginning, yes, I was ashamed, and that was a big part of why I stopped reaching out to my family and my friends. And I think a little of it was because a lot of it was I absolutely knew that I could control the situation meaning as I could leave, and that would stop the pain. That would stop the suffering if I left and I worked on myself. But I wasn't ready to call it quits. Yeah, I could still see my husband in there, even if the addict was prevalent a lot of the time. So in a sense, I kind of started to shut down from everybody because I didn't want to let them know, how bad it was going. But once I started my own recovery and coming here to Mass and working at Al-Anon programs, and again helped from Alpine Recovery Lodge with their aftercare, that is 100% where, no, I am not ashamed anymore of my situation that I've went through. And I know I have the power of hindsight, but I will tell you that it's been a hard and long journey. But I will tell you right now, it's been worth every single step. That was one of the things that Mitchell said. I know in the past when the resentments were still there, the pain was there, the hurt was there, and there's still some there that we both need to work on together. But when he used to say, that, or I would hear that addiction was a blessing, I remember my inner dialogue was like, no, it wasn't. Good God, it wasn't. But I will full-heartedly say right now, it actually was a blessing, because we did work through it, and it wasn't even just that. I found out so much about myself that I didn't know about, and I would rather be mindful in life than just walking blindly through. So I'm very proud of both of our journeys and our strengths that we found through here.
For sure. Hey, Marianne. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Lori. So this one, since Mitchell was using drugs before he even started dating you, did that play in any role, or rather not, you wanted to date him, let alone get engaged and marry him? So I actually, when Mitchell and I first started dating, I had no idea there was an addiction problem whatsoever, and like I stated the last video, is alcohol is very socially accepted. So no, when we're out drinking, I would never think that Mitchell had a problem, because I was there drinking too, and so was everyone else in the bar, and then going out for fires with friends. No, again, because everyone there was drinking. It wasn't until I started seeing more drinking than that needed to be, I guess you could say, is like, so social situations, it was hard for me to see that because I was there as well doing the same exact thing. And, but it became not social situations anymore that I would see that. It'd be hiding it when I didn't, and then it became more of, I knew something was there, but I didn't know anything about addiction. I just saw, okay, there's a drinking problem. He likes to drink too much, but I still didn't even equate that to addiction. When Mitchell and I started dating, I was 21 years old, right? Yeah, 21 or 22. So no, I didn't know that, but then when Mitchell proposed and we got married, the best way I can describe it to you is I absolutely loved this man, but there was something that I was fearful about, and I'll be honest with that with all of you. There was something that I feared, and I didn't know what it was, but now I do, is it was the addict. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Mitchell I was fearful of, it was the addict. You know how I always state that I try to separate Mitchell from the addiction. I think that's one of the biggest things that's helped both of us out tremendously. Yep. And that is 100% why I always had that little bit of fear, is because the addict was prevalent. So it had a little bit of play into it, but the truth is too, is I didn't really start this journey and knew what addiction was and really knew how this problem was getting out of hand until after we got married. So
yeah. And some other telltale signs were we did a long-distance relationship for the first 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. We always saw each other and were in each other's company like a couple times a month, or at least once a month. But whenever we weren't together, and I'd get real drunk, I'd get angry, and we'd have conversations on the phone where I'd be angry or say things that, you know, I definitely normally wouldn't say. I think that was a sign for Anna that, you know, there was issues there with alcohol. And then I do remember whenever Anna told me that she was nervous to marry me. I think it was after like the first or second time, and it hurt. It hurt to hear that, but as I came out of rehab this third time and was really aware of what my addiction had done, and I was aware kind of some of the trauma that it caused in Anna, then I was able to accept that, okay, I understand why you're nervous, you know, but that was only because we were able to separate the addiction from me, and I was able to forgive myself, and then I could put myself in Anna's shoes and say, this was really hard, you know, and feel for her, you know. So I was able to work through her trauma and understand where she was coming from, and then I wasn't hurt. I was actually, you know, very understanding, like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I would have been nervous if the roles were reversed. So I think it shows a lot of growth on my part, and a lot of strength in Anna's part, you know, by recognizing that that was probably the case when we got engaged.
Yep. And Dawn, you see all our dogs back there? We have a lot of animals. And then I'll be completely honest about something that I actually just came to the realization of when I was talking to someone the other day. A good indication that I wasn't aware of, but it was in the back of my head, and a good symbolic thing that I recognized is that day when I was marrying Mitchell, I remember walking down to the lake, and I was scared. There was fear in me, and I was nervous, and I knew it had to do with the addiction, even though if I didn't know the word addiction then, it was the addict that I was scared of. But I will tell you this, and this is what's so symbolic about this, and of the separation of the two. So walking down to Mitchell, I was scared. I was nervous. And the way the crowd was, I could not see my husband. And right after I stepped out of the crowd and could see my husband looking back at me and smiling at me, all that fear disappeared. All that fear. And that's a good symbolism of, I was scared of the addiction, but when the man I knew, that I truly knew that I was in love with, looked back at me, I was not scared anymore. And so right then and there, it's one of those things that I didn't realize back then, but I was already separating Mitchell from the addiction. So when I didn't visibly see him, I was fearful of the addict, but when I saw that man looking back at me and smiling at me, that was the man I fell in love with. And I just want everybody to know that, because we did say that, you know, we're going to be as vulnerable as possible, and I'm going to be honest, I was a little bit nervous telling you that. But the truth is I know that might help somebody else out there that may be feeling the same, and it's okay to feel the way that you do, because it is hard sometimes, because right here is my husband, but within there was the addict, you know, and it's still, like they say, you know, the addict's still in there pumping irons, but he's working a recovery. And it's hard sometimes to separate the two when you're looking straight at the person you love, but the addict resides inside there. Yep. But just know, though, if you work a good program talking out to the families and friends of addicts, and the one that you love wants to work that program and works their program well, there is hope out there, and there is light out there, and you guys can overcome it together.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be hard. I told Anna a lot too, that, you know, for so long I would defend the actions of the addict, because, like I said, I don't know if I've said it on here before, but, you know, the families are they don't choose to deal with an addict or the consequences from an addict or alcoholic, but the addict or alcoholic is drunk or high. So a lot of the times I didn't remember some of the stuff of how Anna remembered it, and Anna was the sober one, and these things were happening. So even if I don't remember, you know, you have to humble yourself and just take it in and say, this happened. This is how it affected Anna, or whoever it is that the addict's affecting. This is how they felt it happening, and this is how it happened with them. And it's hard to hear those things, you know, because a lot of the times it's the next day or a month later or a year later or years later, and it's not how I remembered it. You know, for one, I was probably blacked out or high, or I just didn't want to remember it the way it happened. But that's probably the hardest thing to do, is to always remember that, you know, even if it's two sober people and they're not on any drugs or alcohol, and still the perspectives are different. If Anna sees something and I see something at the same time, we're still going to see it differently. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's just a lesson that you have to really take into account other people's perspectives, listen to them, learn from them. You know, you can share your different perspective and then meet in the middle or whatever, but you definitely have to humble yourself and try to see things from other people's perspectives. I know it really took a lot and a long time for me to be able to look at some of the stuff that Anna experienced during our relationship, but I'll tell you, once I did look at it and empathize with Anna and actually heard her, it made me feel for her more, and it made me feel not ashamed. You'd think it would be ashamed, but it made me feel like I'm actually making progress and I can actually validate her feelings. So it's a really proud moment for me too, and it used to be a really shameful moment.
And that's the thing too, is one of the big things that helped me in my recovery, and what I'm so grateful to Alpine for in the aftercare that we have, is I learned about addiction. So I didn't just, you know, see it. I actually really learned what was going in the mind of an addict, you know, and that helped a lot to get understanding and compassion, you know, because nobody wants to be an addict. No one wants to do something like that to families and friends. It's something in there that's really hurting them that they don't want to look at, and that's why they're numbing it, you know. And what it does is it really completely changes the brain chemistry in the brain, and it brings them straight back to the primeval, like, basically part of the brain of not doing the foundations up here with our logic and reasoning. It comes straight back to the fight, flight, and freeze or play dead. And so it's just, you know, after hearing too, my husband would be kneeling in the backyard crying and screaming to God, please help me. But like he said, in the next 2 minutes he was in the truck going to get Coke. So that's something that, like, hearing that really kind of broke my heart, because for someone to try and really want to find recovery, but still their body believes that they really need it, you know, and their mind, and it's just, addicts are absolutely amazing people. You know, that's one of the things when we talk about it, when we talk about the addict, it always seems negative, because the addict in a sense is negative, but not the true person. That's what we really need to get. The addict may be the manipulator and the liar, but the true person, the person that you fell in love with, that you know, they're not like that. You know that they would never hurt you. And so that's why it's so key to separating the addiction from the person that you truly love. And now Gianna had a question, was it hard to tell my family that Mitchell had an addiction? Yes, it was. There's a lot of my family that had no idea that Mitchell was even an addict until he actually went to rehab. The only part of my family that probably knew was my immediate family, which was my mom, my dad, my sister, and my brother. Other than that, no one knew.
No one knew. Yeah.
I remember my cousin getting in the car and we were heading to Disney World, and he was going to come live with us, and Mitchell was like, just wanted to let you know I'm heading to rehab. And to him, that was an utter, like, way out of left field, you know, and because they had no idea about it. So yes, it was hard. And how I said before, it was because back then I still had a lot of shame for the situation that I was in. And so I did believe the less that knew, the better it was. But the truth is now I know, the more people that know and you have a support system between, around all of you, the better that it is.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And I've been accepted with open arms by everybody that is in my life. So they're all proud of me. I'm proud of myself. Anna's proud of me. I'm proud of her.
Yep.
And I'm proud of my family and her family for, really sticking by my side. So
yep.
It was good.
Hi, Jen and Janelle.
Hey.
Glad to see you on. So what we're going to do, guys, is Mitchell and I are going to try to come on, about 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah, we'll do Wednesday. Wednesday's my 8 months, so.
Well, all right, so we're definitely going to do Wednesday because he's going to hit 8 months, but one day at a time.
One day at a time.
One day at a time.
And that's when Anna was talking about the brain healing and stuff, 7 months is whenever your brain starts to heal. Mm-hmm. So I remember when 7 months hit, I was like, I'm starting to heal, but I feel amazing and I do feel clear. So I'm excited to see what long-term sobriety brings, but I'll tell you, I really do feel back to better than I've ever felt in my life. Because even as a child, I still had these things in my head that I just worried about, and inadequacies and fears and all this stuff that everybody has. Mm-hmm. So really, I feel the best I've felt ever. So I'm excited to see where long-term sobriety brings me, and I'm excited to share it with you guys.
Yeah, and that brings us to, guys, thank you so much. There's been so many people reaching out, whether it's on the comments here, comments on other pages, or even just messaging us, because it's absolutely amazing to hear from you guys, because it creates a connection with us, and we love connecting with you, because the truth is, we didn't start this knowledge here. We got this knowledge from other people that we learned. So in a sense, in symbolic way, is we're carrying the torch that they passed to us, and now we're passing the torch to other people, and that's how we're gonna create that light in the darkness. So thank you guys for sharing and for expressing yourself and reaching out, because that creates that connection, and you're just gonna keep moving on the knowledge that we learned from multiple other people, and it's just gonna keep going, and you're gonna for more people. So it's exciting.
Yes, it is.
So, all right, guys. Well, we love you very much, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Love
all right,
you guys.
Love you guys. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.